where green remembers and flame forgets. The north begins not with snow, but with the memory of warmth, folding into silence. A river once moved here, but even time knows when to stop. Here it is not frozen, it is held. The hills are no longer land, they are breath, white and slow, waiting for nothing but sky. The trees do not grow here, they endure. Their roots don't seek answers, they listen to the long breath of the north. And so it begins, not with a sound, but with a stillness that speaks. This is the north, a hush, a memory, a voice that is not heard, but felt. Whispers of the north, and beneath it all, the whisper of the earth. Amid the frozen patterns of Baikal, a single soul stands still, tiny, fragile, yet infinite. In this vast canvas of earth and silence, nature shows her might, and yet she waits, not to conquer us, but to meet us, one human dwarfed by scale, yet powerful in presence, because to witness is to belong. In Russia's Far East, we discover not just a landscape, but ourselves. Above the frozen glassy water, the world falls silent. No voices, but the wind. Far from the noise of civilization, we find solace. A quiet, so vast, it speaks. A mirror so still, it reflects more than sky. This is Baikal, a lake, older than time, deeper than memory, wilder than myth. But even here, in this sacred silence, a conflict once stirred beneath the ice. Lake Baikal holds 20% of the world's unfrozen freshwater. It is the deepest and one of the oldest lakes on Earth, over 25 million years old. But purity attracts power. In the Soviet era, factories crept closer. Pulp and paper mills spilled chemicals into its waters, and something rare happened. Locals resisted. Scientists, poets, ordinary voices rose in defense of an extraordinary lake. They stood not with weapons, but with words. In 1996, UNESCO named Lake Baikal a World Heritage Site. A line was drawn, a lake, protected, but its story, still fragile. As the sun sinks behind Siberia's frozen breath, Lake Baikal glows like molten glass. A golden hush spreads across the ice, where time slows. and silence burns warm. From the frozen silence of Lake Baikal, we journey west into a land carved by wind, stone, and story. Welcome to Dagestan, where mountains rise like myths, and every cliff hides a secret. Here, the land does not whisper, it echoes. Through narrow passes, ancient trails, and abandoned alls, a place where warriors once vanished into caves, and poets etched verses on canyon walls. This is not just geography. This is memory, set in stone. Dagestan is not one voice. It is a chorus of over 30, each shaped by its own valley, its own sky. The name means land of mountains, a Persian whisper passed down by travelers. But for those who live here, it is simply home. Avars, Dargans, Leks, Lezgins, nations without borders, who carried their identity through language, through dance, through memory. Their villages cling to cliffs, like ancient dreams, and in the stone walls, you can still hear lullabies, older than empires. In Dagestan's highlands, homes do not rise in rows. They scatter like thoughts left behind in a dream. Here, even the wind moves gently. It brushes rooftops, carries the scent of soil, and echoes a rhythm older than maps. Between the torn cliffs and moss-laced stone, a river carves its name with thunder and grace. This is no gentle stream. It is the pulse of the mountain, ancient, untamed. Here, water falls not just to flow, but to remember. Each drop echoes a forgotten song of warriors hidden in caves, of winds that once whispered through battle-cracked silence. This is where the earth exhales power, and where we stand still to feel it. In Dagestan, nature and culture are inseparable. The terrain is home to some of the most remote mountain villages in Eurasia and to traditional ways of life that have endured for centuries. Cattle, sheep, and mountain goats, they form the living heartbeat of highland survival. Free-ranging herds graze across alpine pastures, while shepherds still guide them through seasonal migration, a rhythm as old as the stones beneath their feet. Though not yet inscribed as a World Heritage Site, Dagestan's gorges and grazing cultures represent a fragile harmony between mountain ecology and human tradition. And then, the silence of mountains gives way to the hush of a river city, carved in marble and memory, where bridges rise like clockwork and twilight lasts longer than time itself. This is St. Petersburg. Founded in 1703 by Peter the Great, St. Petersburg was born not from the land, but from vision, a city raised from swamps, built to rival the elegance of Europe. For 2 centuries, it was the imperial capital, the seat of the czars, a city of canals and cathedrals, of revolutions and royal grandeur. Today, the Neva River still carries whispers of history, as bridges rise with precision, and the white nights stretch into dreams. A portrait of faith drawn in stone and light, where silence has weight and walls remember. This is not just a church. It is the breath of centuries, still warm, each dome like a candle, eternal and unblown, each mural a frozen prayer. Here, the divine does not shout. It simply stands. Evening falls slowly here, as if the city itself is reluctant to let go. Bridges lift like gestures, lights blur like memory, and the Neva carries it all. portrait of faith drawn in stone and light, where silence has weight and walls remember. This is not just a church. It is the breath of centuries, still warm, each dome like a candle, eternal and unblown, each mural a frozen prayer. Here, the divine does not shout. It simply stands. In the heart of Central Asia, where the earth rolls like an ancient breath, Tajikistan unfurls, golden, quiet, infinite. These open fields once held the footsteps of kings and the hoofbeats of those who chased the sun. The train glides across this amber plain, not with speed, but with memory, as if the tracks were drawn by longing, not by maps. Look closer, and you'll find deserts that bloom in silence. A single camel standing still, not lost, but timeless. The wind moves gently across the valley, brushing against herds that graze like scattered notes in a forgotten song of the steppe. Here, there are no edges, only wide skies that ask nothing and give everything. Tajikistan, a land not shouting to be seen, but quietly asking to be felt. As the sun leans westward, the hills of Tajikistan glow like embers, quiet and full of stories not yet told. Below, a railway snakes through the valley, part of the network that once echoed with the footsteps of Silk Road traders. This region lies close to the Pamir Mountains, one of the highest and most rugged ranges in the world. Here, life is slower but rooted. Families gather as the day fades, and villages breathe in rhythm with the land. In Tajikistan, time doesn't race, it hums. Beneath the towering bones of the Pamirs, life grazes without hurry. Goats gather in quiet clusters, not tamed, but trusted by the land. These green pastures are more than scenery. They are legacy. For centuries, Tajik herders have followed the rivers and slopes, their footsteps guided by the sky, not the clock. In this silence, even the bleating of goats feels like an ancient song, one passed down through wool and wind. In the heart of Ukraine, where trees rise like prayers, and stone remembers what humans forget, an ancient forest holds its breath. These rocks are not just carved by wind and time, but by memory. Every path here leads both outward and inward, through autumn's fire and into something deeper than silence. Between two ancient stones, a passage appears, narrow, shadowed, almost forgotten. You don't walk through it, you are invited. These rocks do not speak, but they remember. Footsteps of monks, whispers of traders, the breath of those who came to pray or disappear. And then, as the path opens, the forest greets you, not with grandeur, but with gold. Every leaf carries light. The air is warm with memory of fireside songs, harvests, and stories never written down, only passed from eye to eye. In this Ukrainian woodland, time moves like sunlight through branches, slow, soft, and sacred. You came looking for a view. What you found was a silence that sees you. In the far reaches of Dagestan, where roads cling to mountains like threads to a loom, lies the Tylartinsky district, a land of sharp ridges, deep silence, and timeless solitude. Here, the Caucasus doesn't just rise, it reigns. Every slope is etched with wind, every valley carved by centuries of water and will. This is a place few ever find, where nature writes in stone, and the journey itself becomes the destination. The Avar people call these highlands home. Their stories pass through firelight and mountain echo. In Tylartinsky, the earth is not something you cross. It's something you endure and belong to. Nestled in the folds of the Caucasus, these villages appear like whispers in stone. Each rooftop, each path, holds the weight of winters survived and lives lived close to the sky. Homes here are built from the very mountain they rest on, shaped by hands that know hardship and honor. The Avar people have called this place home for centuries. Their traditions rooted in the land, their stories carried by the wind. In Tylartinsky, a village is not just a place, it is a promise to stay, even when the world moves on. In the high-altitude cliffs of Dagestan, trees like the Caucasian pine and mountain juniper grow where few plants dare. With little soil, exposed to freezing winds, and rooted in sheer rock, they survive at altitudes above 2,000 meters. Their twisted trunks are shaped not just by time, but by struggle. These trees can live for centuries, clinging to cliffs as if holding the mountain together. They do not thrive in comfort, they thrive in defiance. And in their silence they whisper, strength is not about ease, it is about staying. In Russia's far east, where the mountains lean into the sea, lies Primorsky Krai, a gateway to the Pacific, shaped by wind, water, and will. This is Vladivostok, the final breath of the Trans-Siberian Railway, and the beating heart of Russia's eastern frontier. The Russky Bridge rises like a blade across the bay, connecting mainland Vladivostok to the wildness of Russky Island. Built not just for travel, but to remind the world, here, at the edge of continents, industry still meets imagination, and steel still dream of a flight. Along these cold Pacific shores, industry hums like an old machine, steady, quiet, relentless. In Primorsky Krai, steel and saltwater are old companions. Shipyards echo with the clang of iron and time. Cranes sweep across the sky like slow, mechanical birds. These towers do not reach for the sky, they release it. In Primorsky Krai, smoke is not just the breath of fire, it is the rhythm of industry. This is one of Russia's eastern power stations, where coal becomes current and steam carries the weight of cities. Trains arrive full and leave empty. These structures may look cold, but they pulse with heat and with purpose. For here, at the edge of the Pacific, energy is not a promise. It is built, burned, and delivered. This is Kyrgyzstan, a land carved by water and written in stone. Here in Central Asia's highlands, mountains do not simply rise, they remember. These sedimentary bands are the slow handwriting of rivers long vanished and lakes that shift with time. What you see are not just rocks, but layers of silence, pressed by pressure and patience. In Kyrgyzstan, the earth speaks slowly, but never without meaning. And where the mountains meet the water, memory flows. In the deep valleys of Kyrgyzstan's Tian Shan Mountains, a wall of concrete holds back the future. This is the Toktagul Dam, the largest hydroelectric plant in the country. Built along the Naran River, it powers homes, cities, and hope across the Kyrgyz heartland. The dam is more than 200 meters wide, holding a reservoir that stretches nearly 60 kilometers. Snowmelt becomes light here, and silence becomes current. In Kyrgyzstan, even the wildest rivers are asked to serve. In Kyrgyzstan, the wind speaks in the language of stone, and rivers carry more than water. They carry time. This is not just a land of peaks and passes. It is a place where silence has roots, and every valley remembers. From above, they look like stars fallen gently to earth, white yurts scattered along the river like ancient markers. This is a nomadic camp in Kyrgyzstan's highlands, where herders still follow the rhythm of grass, sky, and silence. There are no fences here, only the slow unfolding of time. The river cuts through the valley like memory, and the yurts wait for sunrise and story. This is Moscow, where iron meets icon, and every street carries the weight of empire. Founded in the 12th century, built by czars, rebuilt by revolution, and reborn by time. The Moskva River moves slow, but beneath its stillness, the city pulses. Golden domes rise beside glass towers. Trams hum past history. In Moscow, nothing is quiet for long. Not memory, not ambition. This is not just a capital, it is a mirror of everything Russia dares to remember and forget. In a city of domes and towers, this is Moscow's boldest arc, the Живописный Bridge. Its name means picturesque, and it doesn't disappoint. Stretching across the Moskva River, its red steel spine curves like a ribbon of thought, part engineering, part sculpture. Opened in 2007, it remains the highest cable-stayed bridge in Russia. But more than that, it's a bridge that dares to be beautiful. A reminder that even in a city shaped by power, grace has a place. Moscow is a city that remembers and rebuilds. Founded in 1147, it has survived fires, invasions, revolutions, and still it rises. In winter, the air can fall to -20 degrees Celsius, yet the city never stops. It is the northernmost megacity on Earth, frozen, but never still. And at its center, the Kremlin stands like a crown of stone, a seat of power for over 600 years, and now a world heritage of rule and memory. In the heart of Moscow, beneath gold-lit columns and fading twilight, stands the Bolshoi Theater, not just a stage, but a symbol. Since 1825, this hall has echoed with the voices of operas and the footsteps of ballet masters. From Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake to legends of the Soviet stage, the Bolshoi has shaped Russia's cultural soul. This is not merely performance, it is memory, dressed in light. In the skyline of Moscow, where domes catch fire from the setting sun, stands the Cathedral of Christ the Savior. It is the tallest Orthodox church in the world, but its history is taller still. First built in the 1800s, destroyed by Stalin's orders in 1931, and resurrected in the 1990s, stone by stone, memory by memory. Gold rises where ruin once stood, and bells now ring where silence once echoed. This cathedral is not just a monument to God, but to the Russian soul, torn, tested, and reborn. Moscow doesn't sleep, it climbs. These are the towers of Moscow City, a skyline born not from history, but from hunger. Steel and glass rise from Soviet concrete, each pane reflecting ambition, and maybe a little illusion. This is a different Moscow, neon-lit, corporate, vertical, where reflections outnumber stars. But if you listen closely, the hum of old Moscow still lingers in the cracks, because no matter how high we build, the past always knows where we live. At the edge of Moscow, where light touches stone with restraint, stands Victory Park, a monument not to triumph, but to memory. The obelisk rises 141.8 meters, 1 centimeter for every day of the war. Below it, colonnades in flame mark the silence left behind. This is Poklonaya Hill, a place where soldiers once paused to bow. Before entering the city, they vowed to protect. In Moscow, the past does not whisper. It marches, in stone and flame and in the wind that never leaves. In this city, the past stands in stone and the future in glass. These towers of Moscow City reflect more than lights. They reflect what Moscow dares to become. Steel veins rise from Soviet streets, and mirrors stretch the skyline into tomorrow. But beneath the shine, echoes still travel the old tram lines, where memory walks, unseen, but not unfelt. Because in Moscow, time isn't divided between old and new. It is layered. And every building, every shadow, is part of the same dream, still under construction. This is Chukotka, the final breath of Russia before the Pacific takes over. Here, winter is not a season. It is a continent. The wind arrives first, then silence, then time. Reindeer move across the tundra like ancient script, herded not by fences, but by instinct and cold tradition. The people here do not fight the land, they follow it. In Chukotka, roads are guessed, the horizon is a memory, and survival is an art passed down in snow. In Chukotka, the towns don't grow, they endure. Huddled against the cold, each building is a mark of defiance, scratched into the ice. These settlements are not connected by highways, but by will. Generations have lived here. Miners, herders, fishermen. Their windows looking out at a sky that often forgets color. There is beauty here, not in comfort, but in survival. And in these scattered blocks of color and snow, life whispers, even when the wind roars. The North does not speak in sentences. It speaks in shadows, in silence, in the way snow folds over forgotten paths. Here, time moves slowly, and sometimes not at all. Mountains keep secrets. The wind repeats stories long after the storytellers are gone. And across the tundra, where reindeer pass and chimneys smoke, life does not shout. It hums. This is the North, harsh, enduring, and full of breathless beauty. And if you listen closely, you'll hear it too. The whisper beneath the frost. If this journey moved you, there are many more waiting beyond the horizon. Subscribe to Ruach Realms and follow us for more stories carried by wind, carved in stone, and whispered by the earth.